Okay, cool. Hi guys, welcome to week 7. This week is on addictions. Before we get started with a check-in, we will go through the group rules and expectations. The first is the limit of confidentiality, so anything that's said here stays here, but if anyone is at risk of harming themselves, harming somewhere else, or there's any sort of like elder abuse or child abuse disclosed, it would have to get reported. The other group rules that were set is no side conversations, including phones, being respectful and honest, keeping cameras on, and staying present for the Zoom. So the way, just to give you a breakdown, is we're gonna do a check-in, a starting activity, go through a PowerPoint with some videos, a break, and then like kind of like a funner like art activity in the end. So to start for the check-in, if you want to just introduce yourself with your name, and your degree and stuff, and then if your life was a TV show or movie, what would it be? And any like takeaways or like goals you have for the session. Who would like to start? Are you all really thinking hard about the question?
I'm thinking really hard about the TV question, but I
Okay,
guess
got
I'll start. I'm Emma Vasher. My degree is going to be in clinical mental health counseling with a focus in childhood and adolescent disorders. And goals for the session would be learning more about process addictions or process disorders, since there's more of an emphasis put on like just neurological addictions to drugs. Um, I guess TV show. The only thing that's coming into my mind right now is Seinfeld because I've been watching it a lot lately, and I'm like, it's just so ridiculous, and my life is ridiculous. So we're gonna go with that.
Cool. Who's next?
My name is Mark Rainey the second. My degree is clinical mental health counseling. My goals is for this session is to learn what makes someone become an addict, and the TV show that fits my life. I don't know, Arthur.
Like the kids cartoon?
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Cool. What? Wait, you're muted.
Hey guys, Shauna Long, mental health counselor with the emphasis in trauma. Um, TV show, it can be like a movie too.
Mhm.
Okay. I forget what it's called, but it's like those like rom-coms where like one side of the family with hella kids gets with the other side of the family with hella kids
Like
because I
Keeper
just
by
have
the
so
dozen?
many siblings. What'd you say?
Keeper by the dozen?
I don't know.
All right, carry on.
Um, but yeah, and then a goal is to learn about some treatments for youth addictions, youth
Cool.
with addictions.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Sakira. I'm going to get my degree in mental health, clinical mental health counseling with an emphasis in marriage and family counseling. Um, a TV show that I would be in. Well, I'm currently like rewatching Big Bang Theory, and honestly, I could be a part of that crew because they do so much together. You just now that I'm older, I can see that like they're hanging out all the time. I would love to do that with my friends and stuff like that, and I would love to like tell Sheldon off 1,000 times, everybody off 1,000 times. You just realize, like, the more you watch the show, you realize all the characters kind of suck. So, like, that's what I would want to do. So, yeah, I would probably want to be in that show.
Cool. And then anything you are hoping to get out of the session?
Oh, um, so I love learning about addictions. I have volunteered at a couple of group therapy sessions for addictions. Um, my grandmother actually has been in an AA group for a very long time. So I used to tag along when I was younger. And I'm not sure why I'm not going to school for addictions, but that would be like a second thing if I like ever fall back on marriage and family.
Cool. All right. Same thing, Jill, also going for clinical mental health counseling. I would say like the TV show Friends, maybe feels right. And yeah. So I'm gonna start with pulling up a whiteboard, I hope. Tell me,
Do it.
what'd you say?
I said you can do it.
I know. I practiced for the record. Okay, do you guys see it?
Yes.
You. Oh god. Okay. Oh, there it goes. Ah. Okay. So I'm going to start by drawing a few circles on the whiteboard. Everyone can see these circles, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's working. It's very exciting. Zoom is like so great.
It's definitely gotten better since when I had to use it in undergrad. I'll say that.
Percent. All right, so I want you guys to start. You're probably not going to know where this is going till the end, and that's cool. But I promise it will check in. This is like, or check out, like, and have to do with addictions. So I want you guys to think of like a newborn baby or a puppy. And I want to preface this too. There's going to be some like questions as we like move through the circles. Don't feel like you have to talk about like your own life. Like, you can just be like really broad examples, because some of it is a little bit more personal, I guess, or like deep stuff. So whatever you're comfortable with sharing, cool. And like, you can think super broad and doesn't have to be like about you. So think of like a newborn baby or a puppy, and we're looking for like adjectives that would describe them along the lines of like innocent or like things like that. And you can just like shout some out as you think of them.
Cute, adorable.
Soft.
Okay.
Healthy.
Healthy, that's a good one.
Energetic.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. I think carefree is a really good one I always think of.
Wait, it has to be good things about a puppy.
Yeah, we're going for like positive like connotations. So
Sorry, man. Puppies are so evil.
yeah, we're going for like
Playful.
Makes me think of teething.
I'm trying to think what else.
Say cute.
Like
Tiny.
I feel like pure is a good one.
Oh yeah.
They're just like untouched kind of, you know? Anything else?
I say curious.
Curious, that's a great one. Okay.
Is naive bad?
I wouldn't say it's bad. I don't think anything's really good or bad per se. We can definitely throw it on there. Okay. Anything else in this category? All right, cool. So now we are going to go with thinking about, okay, cool. Thinking about maybe some sort of events or like impactful events that happen. I want to say like traumatic in a very loose way. I don't really want to get into like any sort of like abuse, things like that, but more like the first one that comes to mind for me is like your parents get divorced. Like, so like things along that line, those lines that you might think of that happens to people.
Car accident.
Okay.
Illness.
Yeah.
Sorry, what are we thinking about?
So any sort of like impactful events that might happen to someone, or like traumatic events that happen that might impact a person over their lifetime. So like I think like death is a really good one, like family members or siblings or friends or things like that.
Bullying.
Yeah, it's a great one.
I'd say family remarriage, like integration of a new family, like step parents. That could be a big change.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. Anything else that you guys can think of?
Losing your job.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kind of goes with divorce, but bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Anything else you guys can think of? No,
Abuse, like any type of form of abuse.
definitely just like an abuse as an overhaul. Whoa. All right. So the next category I want you to think of is emotions or feelings that might arise after things like in this circle happen.
Like anger.
Mm-hmm.
Depressed?
There's no like right answer. What'd you say? Depressed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Grief,
Re-
regret.
Distance.
Res- Resentment.
What'd you
At you.
What'd you say?
Which one?
Oh,
I missed it.
sad?
Sad, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I said
Overwhelmed?
distant.
Overwhelmed.
Regret.
Distant.
Oh, yeah.
You guys got the emotions on lock.
Resentment.
Distant.
Disgusted?
Hold on. Resentment. Disgust. Okay. Maybe like I feel like anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything
I
else?
feel these on a daily basis. This ain't nothing.
Anything else?
Loneliness.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really spell very well, but whatever. Awesome. And then on the last for the last thing, I want you guys to think of different addictions or I guess addictions is the best word. Like common addictions that you know of and even uncommon. Anything that you think could be either a regular addiction, a process addiction, any kind of addiction.
Gambling.
Substance?
Gambling. Substances, yeah. What else?
Internet addiction.
Yeah. Internet.
Phone. Sex.
Yeah. Sex addiction. Phone/technology. What
Will
else?
alcohol go into substance?
We can put it on there. Alcohol.
Exercise addiction.
Yeah.
Food?
Yeah. Exercise. Food. What else?
Sleep.
Yeah. Sleep. I feel like there's a really big, we'll talk about it later in the session, but video games is a big one right now.
I was just about to say that. I didn't know if it would be different from internet, but yeah.
Yeah. Any other common ones? Or uncommon? All right. So if you were to ask someone who struggles with addiction, like when they're surveyed, the first time they engaged in their addiction. So not like the time where they realize like, okay, I need help. This is an addiction. But the first time they engaged in it, does this work? A lot of times you're going to hear that it shoots them right back into here, into like these initial feelings of like pure or like innocent or happy or carefree or like anything of that nature. And it's why they kind of start using those substances, and they're always kind of like chasing those initial first uses of either the substance or the activity or whatever the process addiction is on the outside. And a lot of people will say like that's my like why I keep using or engaging in these behaviors. So I'm curious, just any like thoughts around that.
It makes sense. I mean, people don't start off inherently craving specific substances or actions unless it's something that they were receiving in the womb. And even then, they're weaned off of that. But
Mhm.
for them to start off in this state of mind, like we were going through divorce and accidents and illnesses, they're looking for ways to cope with that.
Yep.
And then that's when they turn to their addictions and processing disorders.
Yeah, 100%. Like what like you just said, you know, when people are experiencing all those other things in those circles, a lot of times they don't want to deal with them. So like those things in that like inner circle typically lead to these emotions that are maybe less than pleasant to feel. And so instead of feeling their emotions and like working through the traumatic or impactful event and feeling their emotions around it, they turn to some sort of addictive substance that or activity that then kind of like erases all of these things for the time being. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how you started this exercise with us from the like initial and spread out. It just makes you look at it after you got done going through everything more closely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's more impactful how you work this from the inside out than showing the outside and then going in.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense how much like how addiction starts, like how you start off all innocent with these thoughts, and then you gradually like something happens, and then you just keep going and going. Like it makes a lot of sense, but I think it's just so crazy how that happens because you could be like a puppy, cute and innocent, and all of a sudden something happens, and now you have that it can lead you down a road to addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That's the same.
yeah, like you said, like people are born inherently like good, I really believe, right? Like people are not born um like using substances or using addictions and things like that to combat like negative thoughts because like in an ideal world, like a baby feels like sad because they're hungry and like their parents meet their needs and they get fed, or like a baby feels angry because they need a diaper change, like a parent meets their needs and they get changed. And that doesn't happen um in the whole population, as we know. And the statistics show that a lot of people who don't have those things actually end up engaging in addictions later on in life. But yeah, people are like born inherently just like good, I feel like, and don't necessarily have this second circle of impactful events that have happened to them yet.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's that little activity. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna share my screen and pull up a little PowerPoint. And we're gonna go through like some of the PowerPoint, and then it'll be like little pausing points, and then we'll kind of go back and forth with it. How do I share my screen? Oh. Share screen. Okay, do you guys see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. How do I play it is the question. All right. So the first thing is, what is addiction? And the dictionary really just says it's the fact or condition of being addicted to a certain substance, place, idea, or activity. And there are a lot of types of addictions, as we just saw in that activity we just did. Some of the 5 most common, so there's substances like we talked about, alcohol and drugs. There is food, either the lack of or in excess. So basically an eating disorder. Eating disorders kind of span the spectrum of like restrictive disorders or like binge eating disorders and a lot in between. There's also like exercise addiction and things like that kind of in that eating disorder category. The video games and technology, gambling, and shopping. So these are kind of like the 5 we're gonna hit Do any of you guys have any knowledge of any of these addictions and that you would like to share? Like things you know?
Well, I do know that those that have substance use disorders related to alcohol will typically also have a comorbid mental disorder, or they could also later, they're more susceptible to be addicted to drugs or develop a processing disorder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, cool. Well, yeah, it's definitely when you first hear the word addiction, a lot of people will automatically just jump to drugs and alcohol and kind of end it there. And there is a huge, as we're going to see, a large population that struggle with it. So the research shows, and all of these facts were gotten from like a .gov site that deals with like the opioid crisis and addiction crisis in general. So 29.5 million people ages 12 and older are diagnosed with alcohol use disorder as of 2022. So I think we did this the other day of how many people are in the population in another session, but it's a large amount of people in the world that are struggling with drugs and alcohol. And meet the criteria for it. As of 2017, 38% of adults in the world battled some sort of illicit drug use disorder. Now that can be either prescription or non-prescription. So it is, I think, important to make a just note that it doesn't necessarily mean people are just like going onto the streets and buying fentanyl or heroin or like something like that just off the street. A lot of people are getting prescribed narcotics that they're taking like not as directed, which is then classified as some sort of like drug use disorder. Like you said earlier, Emma, 8.5 million adults who are addicted also have some sort of co-occurring mental health diagnosis. So that is going to look like some sort of diagnosable mental health disorder. It can be anything from depression, anxiety, up to like bipolar, schizophrenia, are kind of most of the common ones we hear. And then of those who suffer with substance addiction, 1 out of every 8 have alcohol and drugs, versus just alcohol or just drugs. So, what are your thoughts on those statistics?
Is it 29.5 in the world or
Yeah, in the world,
America?
not in America. Yeah.
I feel like that's low
I did too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
population.
Yeah, I also felt like it was low, but again, we have to remember it's like people who are reporting
Yeah.
addiction. So I think there's still such a huge stigma on addiction in general that probably people are hesitant to report.
Mhm. Yeah, like I definitely feel the people that are reporting co-occurring mental health diagnoses it's somewhat accurate, but then again, it's also like a very low number. And the people that are suffering from these may either be afraid to receive a diagnosis or just like don't think that there's anything wrong with them, therefore they don't seek the help they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the 29 million was interesting to me, just because I also feel like now with vapes being out there and e-cigarettes and all that other stuff, it is way higher too. Just because so many people are getting addicted to that, especially young kids getting addicted to those.
Yeah.
And I don't think like the younger crowd can see that they're addicted. Like
Mm-hmm.
going back to like social media, people joke about how the younger generation like consumes alcohol a lot and do vapes and stuff, and people make jokes about it. I'm like, oh, that's serious. Like you guys have an addiction, you guys don't see it. You don't have to drink every day. You don't have to vape every day. That's an addiction. That's what's happening, and people are just making a big joke out of it, but it's not. Like a lot of young people are really addicted these days, and we're just seeing it as nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Yeah, because like I think they see it like as it being cool or like just the regular norm, drinking every day and doing vape and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely see it as a recreational activity, and
Yeah,
it's
a way to
it's not what
celebrate.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think like to your guys' point, like you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say is like how especially children and adolescents don't recognize it as a problem or an addiction yet. I think a lot of the like telltale signs of addiction of it starting to impact your day-to-day life, your finances, your job, like maybe aren't as prominent when you're a kid or an adolescent because your parents are taking care of things for you. You don't necessarily have all of these consequences yet. Versus like adults, you know, they lose their jobs, their homes, their money, their families. They lose everything. And it maybe is a little bit more recognizable. Versus when you're a kid.
And I think that's what's happening. Like, when I was talking about that, I was talking about young adults,
Okay.
but because I don't think because it's not affecting anything they got going on, because they can still go to work, still do what they need to do. Yeah, you're right. They're probably not recognizing it as an addiction.
Yeah.
I think it's also because it's like you can kind of smoke them anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So they're also thinking of it too as like it's not that big of a deal just because you can smoke it a lot of places.
For the vapes. Yeah, totally. And I think, right, like what's an addiction for one is not an addiction for another. And we talk a lot in substance use disorder treatment about harm reduction. So you see a lot of clients who or people who come in with like pretty severe alcohol or drug use disorders, transfer addictions. They call it like a cross transfer addiction to like caffeine, nicotine, things like that. And it's almost like a harm reduction. So we'd rather maybe someone be using nicotine or like a vape over like street drugs, you know. And then like eventually you kind of like titrate people down off of everything if they want. But it definitely can be things like that. Like I think like marijuana and vapes and things like that are seen as less harmful than certain drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, I also feel like there's a social component to it as well, especially for young adults. For the like 12 and up group, I feel like that's more of them trying to be more adult because
Mhm.
they might see other adults doing it, or they see on TikTok that like there's all these people that are vaping and they think it's so cool. And they're typically seeing it from people that are like legally allowed to buy these products. Otherwise, TikTok, I hope, takes the content down if it's a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
But yeah, I do feel like a lot of people will do things that they don't normally do for social approval.
totally. Totally. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys a short little video, and then we're going to go into some treatments for substance use. So the way I'm doing this is kind of breaking it up per addiction, doing a little like segment on each. And then the coping skills we'll kind of do as overarching for all the addictions we talk about. But let me share my screen again. Hmm. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
yeah.
Cool.
An addict fell in a hole and couldn't get out. A businessman went by.
I can't see the video.
It called out for help.
What's wrong?
See the PowerPoint?
I only see PowerPoint too.
Wait, you don't see the video?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. Did you just hear the really dramatic words? Okay, hold on. My bad. Okay. That was funny.
When you said, do you see that? I thought you meant the change of the PowerPoint
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought that's how the video started out.
I know, I'm like, wait, am I missing something?
Sorry. And it's like so dramatic too. Okay, share screen. Okay, do you see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
An addict fell in a hole and couldn't get out.
Oh my god, it's very loud. Now can you see the video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The addicts fell in the hole and couldn't get out. Here we go.
A businessman went by and the addict called out for help. The businessman threw him some money and told him to buy himself a ladder.
Mm.
But the addict couldn't buy a ladder as he was in the hole. A doctor walked by. The addict said, "Help, I can't get out." The doctor gave him some drugs and said, "Take this, it will relieve the pain." The addict said, "Thanks." But when the pills ran out, he was still in the hole. A well-known psychiatrist came by and heard the addict's cries for help. He stopped and asked, "How did you get there? Were you born there? Did your parents put you there? Tell me about yourself. It will alleviate your sense of relevance." So the addict talked with him for an hour. And then the psychiatrist had to leave, but she said she'd be back next week. The addict thanked her, but he was still in the hole. A priest came by. The addict called for help. The priest gave him a Bible and said, "I'll say a prayer for you." She got down on her knees and prayed for the addict. Then she left. The addict was very grateful. He read the Bible, but he was still stuck in the hole.
And see where I am
A recovering addict happened to be passing by. The addict cried out, "Hey, help me. I'm stuck in this hole." Right away, the recovering addict jumped down in the hole with him. The addict said, "What are you doing? Now we're both stuck here." The recovering addict said, "Calm down. It's okay. I've been here before. I know how to get in."
Okay. All right, cool. Thoughts on the video and the dramatic music?
Super eerie.
I know.
This made me think of AA meetings because of the addictions class we took. So yeah, it made me think of AA meetings because I think I did like a focus on that or something. But how important it is, I mean, how like effective they are because of being able to be around people who've already been through what you've been through. So it made me think of that, but then it also made me think of the one like con to it is the person has to be willing to at least make the first step of going.
Mm-hmm.
I see that he was in front. Well, he's basically what in front of a cemetery or like in a cemetery basically. And what was that saying? Like he got one foot in the ground. You ever heard of that saying?
I have heard of this saying, and I think I'm not quite sure if like they meant to do it that way, but that is a very interesting insight of like you have one foot in the ground
does that
of the
mean?
world or something.
One foot in the ground.
Yeah.
Basically it means you got yourself in some trouble
Yeah.
and you don't know how to get out for real.
Yeah.
So they be like, yeah, he or she got she got one foot in the ground. She don't stop doing this. He got one foot in the ground. Yeah, people just say that. That's a
Yeah.
country saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I thought of when I saw the video. I mean, technically he had his whole body, but obviously he could get out. He could find a way to get out. So technically it was one foot in the ground.
Okay.
I liked how the psychiatrist wasn't like the permanent option for this person, but they also weren't looked at negatively.
Mhm.
So like they obviously can help, but you need to be able to like receive help from other people that have been in the same situation as you, which I think is why there's such an importance for psychiatrists and counselors that are recovering addicts to
Mhm.
go into that profession so that they can actually have that firsthand experience and help those people.
Yeah. Um,
Oh, so I like the video because it helps like people who want to be like a counselor or therapist
mhm.
how to treat people with who are addicts. So like the guy he was in he might have been addicted to something and he was like in a deep hole. And a lot of times people who have an addiction, they're in the deep hole and they don't know how to get out of there. And
Yeah.
so I like the video because it showed that it took a lot of people, the priest, a doctor, and someone who actually been through it to help him get out of there. And so like if like people who are trying to become like a counselor, it helps you to think that it takes a team to help somebody get through these situations and stuff. And so I liked it.
Yeah. I think so how you help people with a substance use disorder. So all of these things were really, I think, portrayed well in the video. So there's therapy, which can include some sort of combination of either like cognitive behavioral, dialectical behavioral, or motivational interviewing, which is what those acronyms stand for. EMDR. Do you guys know what EMDR is? Maybe. No. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it's a type of trauma therapy where it involves like bilateral stimulation of the right and left sides of the brain. So they do that either using like vibrating tappers or watching like a light go back and forth. It just kind of reprocesses trauma in a new light. And talk therapy. And I also should have included on here some sort of medication management, like the psychiatry portion as well. There's outside support groups. So there's like 12-step, which Shauna, you just mentioned. And for a lot of people, they are scared away of 12-step groups. Do you guys know why that might be?
There is a very intense focus on religion in those groups, so I know that could definitely keep some people away from them.
Yeah, that's
But
exactly
I
it.
know that 12-step groups also are technically supposed to like not allow you to partake in any substances when you're in those groups. So they can't even like smoke if they're doing heroin, like you were talking about, where you want to give them like a lesser evil per
I feel
se.
like harm reduction. I will say in 12-step now in the year of like 2023, there is a little bit less of a stigma around harm reduction in general, but absolutely like that piece and the God component is a really big one. Or for some people, it's not God component enough. So there's something for everyone. So there's 12-step, there's Celebrate Recovery, which is a centered around Jesus and prayer and things like that, that are usually held in churches that are for people who struggle with addiction. Does anyone know what Smart Recovery is? No. Smart Recovery is also people with addiction, and it is more of a cognitive behavioral approach done in a peer-led way. So like 12-step is peer-led. Same thing with Smart Recovery, where they talk about changing your thoughts, and how when you change your thoughts, you can change your actions and things like that. And Refuge is more of like a Buddhist meditation program where they go through like the Four Noble Truths of like mindfulness and meditation and things like that. And then of course, developing healthy coping skills as always. Can you guys think of any other like ways to help people who struggle specifically with like drug and alcohol use disorder?
Maybe this would be considered a healthy coping skill, but keeping a support group. Not, I know that it says like outside support groups on there, but like family and loved ones and like friends that are actually going to support you in recovery.
Totally. Okay. Anything else?
Mm.
Okay. We are going to transition from substance use to eating disorders. And we will at the end like circle back around to all the stuff. So if you think of random questions about substance abuse, like that's cool too. Ask away. So these all come from NEDA.org, which is National Eating Disorder Awareness organization. So the statistics for eating disorders, and when I say eating disorders, in that range, there is what are some of the most common like eating disorders you guys know of?
Anorexia,
Anorexia, yeah, bulimia.
Yep.
ARFID.
Yeah. So ARFID for the instance of the addiction piece is not going to apply. Just because a lot of times ARFID isn't a lot of it comes from like sensory or like childhood, and that kind of follows you into adulthood. But yeah, anorexia, there's anorexia and then there's atypical anorexia, bulimia, there is binge eating disorder, there is like OSFED, which is just like not specified eating disorders. So kind of people who have like components of all of them, which I think is pretty common. And then we're also going to group exercise addiction into this as well. Just so you have that in your mind for the statistics and the dialogue we're going to have. So 9% or 28.8 million Americans will face an eating disorder in their lifetime. This is reported again. Not maybe as accurate, but what people are reporting. Every 52 minutes, someone dies as a result of a complication with an eating disorder. And 22% of children and adolescents show disordered eating worldwide. Does anyone know the difference between disordered eating and eating disorder? No.
I don't know if it's like the actual representation of it, but I know an eating disorder is like something that's actually diagnosable. So like according to the DSM, and then disordered eating would be something along the lines of like children with autism or children with sensory disorders that have like disordered eating, where like they have, like you were talking about, sensory issues in regards to eating, or just like not eating regularly or eating too much, but it doesn't fit the criteria for a diagnosis.
100%. And the disordered eating doesn't, like, this statistic is talking about children and adults as well, or children and adolescents, excuse me. Adults as well can classify under disordered eating. And they may not be in a full-blown eating disorder, but they could be in disordered eating, which can really quickly turn into a full-blown eating disorder that's characterized in the DSM. So it just kind of depends.
What happens to make that switch?
Yeah. So disordered eating, you could, for example, maybe struggle with some only eating keto, but it like taking it to an extreme, or like not eating carbs, but in a way that, right, like carbs are like what our brains need to function, like carbohydrates engage, like make healthy brain functioning happen. And some people are carb free, not for like physical benefits, or like if they have like some sort of diagnosable like celiacs or gluten-free disease, but because they think it applies to like weight management or things like that. So they might not be in a full-blown eating disorder where their like labs are poor and their vitals are bad, meaning like blood pressure or heart rate, or they are not fully impacted on a day-to-day, but they're still starting to engage in some of those like slippery slope eating disorder behaviors. This topic tends to push a lot of buttons because the statistics are staggering for how many people in the world have some sort of disordered eating or like unhealthy relationship with food, and don't even realize it. So it's pretty interesting. We're gonna watch a video after we go through some of these, what we can do about it, and have a discussion around it. That I think I'm curious to see everyone's feedback on. So the examples, same thing as before, the different types of therapy also apply to eating disorder treatment. The support groups are just like 12-step, like NA and AA. They have EDA, which is Eating Disorders Anonymous, and OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous. And then the same, like Celebrate and Smart and things like that are not addiction specific, they're overarching. And then a lot of it is talking about changing the dialogue. Like a lot of the treatment for eating disorders right now is changing your inner circle's dialogue around clean eating, carbs are bad, the stigma of thinking like overweight equals unhealthy. A lot of people, I'm curious if you guys have experiences on like social media and things like that where you have seen any of those like messages come across.
I definitely have. I mean, a lot of, I would say my personal experience with like eating disorders or disordered eating would just be like sensory based because I really hate squishy foods and I just like avoid them. But it's not necessarily disordered eating because I still like intake the correct nutrition.
Right.
So a lot of times if it's like on Instagram or Twitter, I will see these girls and I'm like, I know in my brain that they've been photoshopped. So that's what I tell myself because there's no way that that girl can look like that naturally. And even if she does, like she's not healthy and she's most likely not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I just seem like the opposite. So I have like fear foods, stuff that I won't intake. I have, I intake what I need. I eat what I need to eat, but I do have foods that I fear due to like the consequences of intake or whatever. That's just something that just stemmed from me being picky when I was younger. I'm not as picky as I used to be, but it's stuff that I refused to eat when I was younger, and now I'm just like terrified to even try it again. But one of the things that I've seen like on TikTok, I never realized like how much people could eat. Like I'm thinking sometimes, I have my moments where I'm like, dang, did I eat too much? Did I eat a lot? Like, what am I gonna do? And then you see people eat like these full meals and even more, and I'm like, am I doing enough? So it's like a 50-50 with me. Am I eating too much or I'm not eating enough? So that's what I see. I don't see like, well, sometimes I come across on Instagram and seeing these Instagram models and stuff, but they be eating. I just want y'all to know they be eating.
Mm-hmm.
They eat. Don't let them pictures fool you. They eat food. They eat good.
It
It's
made me
crazy
think.
because I was just talking about that yesterday. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
It made me think of the whole social trend of like mukbangs or whatever they're called, where people sit and eat like these big old meals in front of a camera. But then it also made me think of like when it's like even just one person and they just be grabbing like on a huge like plate of food, and they're making money off of it. So eventually it just becomes like a everyday thing for them.
I'd love to propose the question of what you guys think, like, what is the purpose of eating food?
There's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pleasure component. There's some people just like to eat. They like the movement of their teeth. That's why like some people with sensory disorders, they always have like chewies because they like that sensation of like grinding their teeth. There's the nutritional, physical component of it.
Yeah, there's like eating for nourishment, right? Which is, I think, like what everyone thinks about when they first think, why do I eat? I eat because I have to eat, like, you know what I mean? So like there's the eating for nourishment, but there's also like the eating for pleasure, there's eating for social connection, there's eating for like personal preference or like cravings. And none of those like are inherently bad. And in fact, like when you're engaging in all those different types of eating over your weeks or stuff is showing like a healthy relationship with food. When you were talking about the trend, Shauna, of like the mukbangs, I was also thinking about the girl dinner trend, which is like the opposite effect and how do you think that may have impacted, I think of like young adolescents on social media or like young adults and things like that, and like that kind of messaging.
Wait, what's the
You
girl?
see the girl dinner trend? It was like a TikTok
Oh my
filter,
gosh.
and it was like this song that was like girl dinner. It's very dramatic. And it would be like cheese, Diet Coke, pretzels.
So not even healthy stuff, just nothing though.
So I would like to
It will
put
either be like,
neither healthy nor unhealthy.
Yeah.
But it was just like random like components that don't make up a meal. So it could be like dried fruit, water, barbecue chip. Like it's
Yeah,
you know
gotcha.
what I mean? Or like cucumbers, ranch, Diet Coke. But they were calling that like their whole meal. That was their girl dinner. And then they would like plate their dinner and eat it. Thoughts?
I mean, my girl dinner is don't laugh. It's Doritos and pepperoni.
Yeah.
I don't eat it all the time because that's bad for your stomach. But yeah, that's like my go-to. That's like my guilty pleasure, my little guilty meal.
But would
It's
you
so
think
good.
that classifies as a meal?
No.
Yeah,
You
to
said
me,
yes, and Mark
I
said
eat crazy.
curious. Tell me about it.
I don't know.
I don't think it's considered a meal.
No.
I think it's considered like a snack or something.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
get full fast, so anything I get full on, that's a meal to me.
Yeah, it's gonna be different
That's
for
it.
everyone, right? Like I'm not here to say like, oh, this is a meal, this isn't, like this is disorder, this isn't. Like that's not really what we're psychoeducating, but it's just like I challenge you to just think. I'm gonna show you guys a video. It's called Poodle Science, and it is gonna show you some of the conversation behind the stigma of like overweight equals unhealthy and things like that. And I'm curious to get your guys' feedback on it, as far as how it pertains to like eating disorders. And we're kind of more gearing in towards like now like the treatment of eating disorders. And let me see if I can pull it up for you. Poodle Science. Where'd you guys go?
That's my issue I had last week.
Okay, wait, there you are. It's
Where'd
weird how
everybody
Zoom just like, yeah. Okay, Poodle Science. Do you see my screen?
I see YouTube. Yes, I see your screen.
Beautiful. Welcome to Poodle Science.
There's a big problem at the center of our research on weight and health. What's the problem? Well, picture a society made up of dogs. Let's say poodles are the bossiest group. They're the ones you see down at the doggy park barking at all the other dogs about how to live their lives in order to be healthy. But the problem is, poodles think that every other kind of dog is just a really big, a really small, or a really fat poodle, when actually the other dogs aren't even poodles at all. They're terriers, or mastiffs, or greyhounds, or labs. And all of the thousands of different dog breeds have different lifespans and different health risks. Each one has evolved to use food differently for different specialties at surviving. Some for staying warm, some for running fast, and some for being strong. They're meant to be different sizes and weights. So the poodles think the mastiff should lose weight, but a starving mastiff never becomes a poodle. The poodles don't understand that dogs come in many more sizes than they can imagine in their poodle-centric ways. So this becomes a problem when it comes to poodle science. When the poodles did their weight and health research and made the claim that lighter dogs are healthier and live longer, they weren't comparing thinner poodles and fatter poodles. They were comparing poodles and mastiffs. So the recommendation for mastiffs to lose weight is based on the false assumption that if all dogs reach poodle weight, then all dogs will have poodle health. But once again, a starved mastiff just isn't a poodle. This poodle science doesn't even test whether a starved mastiff lives longer than a mastiff who has enough to eat. because one would have to compare mastiffs who maintain poodle weight to mastiffs that maintain mastiff weight. And it turns out that starving mastiffs regain weight, which after all is a much better thing than starving. But the poodles can only see that regain as a failure of mastiff self-discipline. Look, poodles are great, but poodle-centric health policy is a nightmare. Good science tells us that it's better to recognize and respect the ways we're different, because how we're treated, having good friends, having access to decent food, a place to play, restful sleep, and medical care make a huge difference in our health and longevity for all of us, whatever our size.
Okay. Thoughts on poodle science? Did everyone understand what poodle science was trying to say? Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be like complicated, I feel like.
I feel like this made me think of my big difference. Have you guys heard of the term like stallion that they use like for women?
Yeah.
Do I need to explain
I'm
it?
just like in the air. Maybe it's above my generation. but,
Okay,
like,
so you guys know how the stallion, like the black stallion, the horse, like they're bigger than regular horses, things like that, more like shaped out and whatever. So they made that name for like Houston women or any type of woman that's very tall and very like hourglass build or just got like more thickness to them. So it made me think of how like I'm like 5 foot petite. So like I can never like get to that just as because of just how their body is just naturally built, they wouldn't be able to get to my like petite size. Like it's really hard for me to gain weight, which it may be hard for them to lose weight. So you can't like just feel like they got it, they can do what you can do and you can do what they can do, you know?
mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
y'all ever heard of Megan Thee Stallion, just look at her body
Yeah,
and
yeah,
her
that's
height.
what it's
That where it came
That's
from?
what a stallion
yeah.
is.
I'm following.
Yeah, that yeah. Same thing Jay Shauna said.
So when talking about like how eating disorders and food addiction and food restriction and like all of that develops, like how I called it like a poodle centric health system, but like BMI and things like that were created and really like harped into, I think, like doctors and like the medical community who then like teach their patients. And in the statistics and the research, it says that over 50% of people who struggle with like a restrictive disorder found themselves in what's categorized as an overweight BMI because a doctor told them so. So I don't know, I think the video sheds some good light onto how our health system is set up to maybe
Societal norm.
yeah, like it's just become a societal norm, I guess. Do you guys have any more thoughts on like eating disorders or eating addiction, exercise addiction?
I guess a lot of it for me is just that it's centered around control and controlling one's body. If they cannot control anything else in their life, they can at least control how their body looks and their food intake. And just to go back to like the kids with autism thing, since that's what I do all day at work, I feel like for them specifically, it would not be considered an eating disorder or anybody with like cognitive dysfunctions because there's a thought process that goes behind it. Like you have to know that you're doing this to lose weight or to gain weight, or at least you know that you're going to gain weight or lose weight by doing this. So it is a lot about just control and having that ability to process those emotions.
Yeah, 100%. And we're going to talk about that a lot more like in the second half when we go into some coping skills and like emotion processing and how it works. But I would say even with like the substance use that we just talked about and the process addictions we're about to talk about, control is a really big thing you hear in substance use, like trying to control not feeling the negative emotions. with eating disorders and like food addiction, you hear a lot of like, I've struggled to feel a sense of control, so that's something I can control. Yeah. Okay.
When I watching the poodle science video, it makes me think about body dysmorphia
Mhm.
and how a lot of women struggle with it. And it just makes me think about how society has changed the body type
Mhm.
over the past couple of years. Like one thing that comes to mind is like, you know how women have gotten like BBLs and stuff like that to achieve that look. I'm not sure where the look even started, but that's what women are trying to achieve now. And you have girls that look on social media all the time and they think like, dang, how am I gonna look like that? I want to look like that. How do I look that? And a lot of celebrities don't come forward about getting surgery, about being under the knife. They don't say anything. They just be like, yeah, if you work out, you do this, you're gonna look exactly like me. But that's not the case at all. You're gonna look like how you look, whether like if we work out, you're gonna be built, but it's still your body. So whatever your body looks like when you're built, you're going to look like that and they're going to look like that. And I know it's hard to grasp if you're dealing with body dysmorphia. So yeah, that's what comes to mind when about the poodle science.
Yeah,
So,
body
yeah.
dysmorphia is definitely a real, I think part of like addiction in that sense of like food addiction and exercise addiction and eating disorders in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that
Uh,
also,
yeah.
sorry,
No, please go ahead.
plays a part into like prescription addiction because I know a lot of people started taking, and I forget even what they're called, but like recently they just became big for like helping women or even men lose like a lot of weight, but they become like really, really skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made me think of that too.
Yeah, I think it's crazy like how the addictions can all just like intermingle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That tummy tea comes to mind when you talk about that. Also, like, it's this Chinese tea that everybody says that you should use. Do not use that, y'all. If y'all ever see that little Chinese tea in the store, it comes in a dark green box. You will poop your guts, your brain, your thoughts, your memory, your mind, everything out.
That's the point.
That is horrible. I haven't tried it. I refuse. I already have bubble guts on a daily basis for no reason. I'm not gonna let no tea
I've
destroy
got those
me.
shots at home in case I feel really sick because I know it'll cleanse me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Cleanses are
the only
another
thing that
great
cleanse.
like example, I think, of trying to control and influence like shape, like you were saying, Emma, or like the body, and just like it's such a great example of like how our society is just like warped into this sense of like wanting to control the body
Mm-hmm.
versus
Yeah,
like the body's set point. Do you guys know what the body's set point means?
no.
So like everyone's body has a set point is like the science behind it. And if you are eating what is recommended as far as having some sort of like carbs multiple times a day, fats multiple times a day, fruits, vegetables, proteins, starches, things like that, like your body will just find its natural set point, and it's different for everyone, but it's when people don't like what their set point is that they start trying to like control it and like change it. But like everyone's body has a set point that it just like intuitively knows where to go.
Kind of off topic, but on topic, that just made me think of like when you just asked us what social media things we're seeing. I recently just seen this doctor and he was talking about how like something in our like intestines breaks down our carbs or breaks down our food, but like carbs is like the one thing that like damages those receptors. And so he was like talking about how you're not supposed to eat so many carbs and da da da. And yeah, just seeing that video just started making me like paranoid. Like every time I ate some type of bread, I was like, oh God, is this about to tear up my receptors in my
It is
stomach?
crazy.
He's like he reaffirmed like your receptors always regrow back and stuff. Like they say like after so many years like your cells rebuild themselves or whatever. But yeah, it still like made me like very well get some anxiety from that.
Yeah, I think that is another really great example of society and like for this doctor, I truly believe he believes it's true. That's the thing. Like people really, you know what I mean? But I think about like when you take any sort of like health or nutrition class and you just talk about like what is the purpose of a carbohydrate, like down to the, you know what I mean? Or what is the purpose of a fat, or what is the purpose of like all of it has some sort of biological component, or else like we wouldn't have them, you know? Let me share this. So a little bit of like statistics on other process addictions, moving out of like food and drugs and alcohol. So gambling, video games, technology, and shopping are examples of process addictions. When it starts to interfere with someone's daily responsibilities, ability to live, or financial health, it can be considered an addiction. And that is a really overarching, broad definition. Up to 10 million Americans are diagnosed with a gambling addiction as of 2021. So that's like a little gambling stat. Of those who play video games, 7.4% are considered to be problem gamers or struggle with some sort of video game addiction. And 6% of internet users are considered addicted. So when looking at these statistics, do any of them surprise you or like make sense to you or anything like that?
The 6% for internet users is kind of low to me.
Okay.
It seems low.
I was
Well-
thinking that too, because there's so many people that use the internet. But then again, it also made me
Mhm.
think of like grandparents and them, like they don't really use the internet that much. So
And what about like when you think of the internet as like affecting someone's finances, ability to live, daily responsibilities, like
Exactly.
so that is also a way to look at it. Like I think there's a difference between like internet overconsumption versus internet addiction. But I agree. I also thought 6% was low.
I guess the way that I would look at that is like my stepsister, she will go to work and then she'll like take a shower, maybe go to work, come home, be on TikTok until she falls asleep. And like, honestly, she's still like eating and doing everything to survive, but I would still consider that addiction. Like, I feel like TikTok needs its own bubble for people
100%.
because I've never downloaded TikTok and I've never been happier with the fact that I've never downloaded it because it's just like I don't even want to use the word that I was about to say, but it's just like so bad for you. Just I like when they have the timers that you can set, but then you can also ignore those timers. So what's the point of having the timer?
Yeah, I think as an adult using that timer, like you can say, oh, the app will shut down, but you can just unlock the app versus like an adolescent having the parent control the timer, I think is so important.
Otherwise, they just keep going. They're just these addicting little videos. And since the company obviously knows that attention spans are low, there's more people watching TikToks than YouTube videos.
Yep.
Because they're short little snippets. It's easy, just keep swiping.
Mhm.
Oh, girl, I'm sorry. TikTok is so funny.
I consider myself a problem TikTok user 100%.
I cannot.
I am like off and on it. Sometimes I'll spend hours, and then I go days without it. But TikTok is my new Google for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I go to TikTok for any question I have.
Yeah.
I'll go to YouTube and look up TikTok compilation of subject, but I won't download TikTok.
Okay, valid. Mark, you've been extra quiet.
Are you a TikTok user, Mark?
No, not really.
What do you think of
On
these
YouTube.
stats?
Yes.
But yeah, I can understand why the internet user is kind of low because you know you got the people that's like addicted to using the internet, and then you got those who use the internet to like for good resource like for stocks and stuff to make money and stuff. So I can understand that.
Mhm.
But like once they get done making their money, they get off of it. So I can understand it why it's low.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one important thing to keep in mind, because I keep going over these different process addictions that you have like listed. I'm thinking like video games and how they're coming up with new things for video gamers to make money to play video games and stuff like that. And I'm trying to relate addictions with it and stuff like that. So I think the main important thing is just remembering there's a difference with process disorders of regular like involvement in these activities, and then when it becomes too far and actually becomes that addiction, is really keeping that line separate
Yeah,
about those type of addictions.
yeah. Okay. Well, we are gonna take a little break. It is 7:09. I was trying to wait for it to say 7:10 on my phone. So let's come back at 9:10. Like 7:17.
Beautiful.
All right, cool. All right, cool. Checking in at this point. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, things they want to say about anything we've covered so far? Nothing?
Okay, I got a question.
Whoa!
When does like food pleasure turn into like food addiction?
What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't necessarily know like the scientific right answer either, but I'm curious, like what prompted you to ask the question, or like what do you think the answer is?
I don't know because like people who like they had a certain food pleasure, like they continue to eat it, and I don't know.
Yeah,
What
I
it-
think like with all the addictions, like when it starts to affect maybe someone's like physical health or um how they live their lives, or like the ability to do different things, like maybe then it starts to turn into more of like an addiction piece.
Okay.
If you watch like My 600 Pound Life, they kind of explain
That's literally just
where
what I was thinking of.
they kind of explain how their addiction to food started. Most of them is grieving.
Mm,
Most of them are usually like the ones that I've seen, a lot of them are grieving. And a lot
Mhm.
of them have been bullied and haven't like healed properly. And then some people just use food as an scapegoat from like what they're going through. But most of the time it's like grieving, feeling better, depressed, bullied, or
Mhm.
yeah, and they kind of just say that, you know, something it's a traumatic event, you know, like the circle. They usually do good,
yeah, I
then
was gonna
boom,
say-
or something happens, and then
yeah,
they eat. And then, yes, a lot of people use eating as like a coping mechanism, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And yeah, you see how that turns out.
yeah, just like
I used to love,
go ahead.
hmm,
No, keep going.
I used to love, sorry, I used to love watching My Sister for Life, not because they were big, just because I was so interested in how that, just how did that happen?
Mhm. Yeah, I
That's
think
a lot of like the mental process is what I was interested in.
yeah, I think like you said, you just made a really good point. Like the emotions piece of it, like dealing with emotions in an avoidant type way tends to fuel addiction. I think is a great overarching theme of like how does someone get addicted? Like we all experience emotions. Some people know how to deal with them better than others. Um, and I think it was a great segue into kind of the activity we're gonna do in a minute. Do you want to just share this last little PowerPoint, like healthy coping skills and treatments? So like I think we've done a really good job like throughout this 7 weeks together of like hitting on a lot of these in different ways of like the journaling, the meditation, the mindfulness. We are gonna do a little bit of like a music and art activity. Um, and then like community building and like having a good community around you. Is there anything else that you guys use that helps you cope with emotions or like uh, things that happen in your life? Did everyone just laugh?
Zai takes naps.
Mm-hmm.
I go
Oh,
to sleep.
did you say that and I just missed it?
No,
No,
she
I
just
did the
got
I did the
emotional.
movement. I did the movement. I did this.
Naps. Isolation, love it. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Oh, found like funny things to laugh at. So yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Clean until I can't clean anymore. I do that a lot as well. Or I throw myself into work.
Okay.
I start mopping.
What'd you say, Shauna?
I was
Oh.
agreeing with Emma. I start mopping.
Okay. Cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's definitely TV. I'm like have an obsession with
Okay.
television.
So we are going to do a little bit of an activity. I asked you guys to have blank paper and some sort of like supply. And we are going to do a little bit of an emotion invoking positive emotions activity. So there is something called oh boy, I'm gonna forget the name as we speak. Introceptives, and it is a therapy technique used to invoke emotion. A lot of times, like in exposure therapy, they'll evoke negative emotions to have someone like feel that in a safe, supported environment and learn how to sit with it and kind of process through it with a therapist. So then when that happens in the real world, they're a little bit more equipped to deal with it. And we're going to do kind of the opposite and then try to invoke some like calming positive emotions. So we are going to listen to 3 different songs. It's going to be like a combo of like art and music therapy that can be used. And something that you can do like by yourself versus like needing some sort of like trained professional to do it with you. And as you listen to the song, you are going to just see what comes out on your paper. So a lot of times for me, when I do this, it'll be shapes and colors or just like line work or like all sorts of random stuff. I'm a really bad artist, so I don't expect this to be like, just like, don't feel like whatever. And if you don't have to share them if you don't want to, like I'm going to ask if anyone wants to, but I don't want that to like inhibit your process of like, just like leaning into it. So I am going to pull up the first song here. Does everyone have stuff to use?
Lined paper. I hope that's okay.
You know what? I'm okay with that.
Blank.
Okay. I mean, you could even write over your words. Who knows? All right. Tell me if you guys can hear this when it plays, please. First, there will be an ad, of course.
Oh, I was like, am I supposed to hear something?
No, not yet. Okay. Let's see. Can you hear that?
Yes.
All right, cool.
This is the ad or the song?
No, this is a song. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can start and just see what happens.
It comes to me upon the strings when I hear it, well, I say, I can't say it's my creation, staying patient, what it brings. Say I'm coming humble, I don't think that's right. Unbelievable, I sit down, oh, so. So. Everybody's got that chapter of dark and darker days. Saturn seems to be returning and his essence can't be tamed. Some we like to fight a giant plan, a secret attack. But the more you push it, the more it's pushing you back. So you can't rush your
Okay. So that is song number 1. You can flip to either the back of your paper or a new paper, or if you want to combine all of yours into one paper, that's cool too. Whatever you prefer. Okay. All right. Let's see.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, all-inclusive offering by Zero Star Beachfront Resorts.
Okay.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten and I'm in love nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe. Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stay, if you can't reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know, take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head up, you will be fine. You will be found.
Okay, little Dear Evan Hansen. And has anyone ever seen Dear Evan Hansen? You have. I love Dear Evan Hansen. All right. And the last one, maybe my personal favorite. Okay.
Can you start it over?
Can I start it over? Yeah.
Oh man.
No.
I could tell by the second note it was Taylor Swift.
Of course.
Mhm.
Got the
But
All right. Cool. So I'm gonna go around one by one, and you can share as much or as little as you would like. You don't have to share your pictures if you don't want to. But I'm curious the experience of like just the experience overall, I guess, of utilizing music and like creativity and art as a way to like evoke emotion, or like how you think you could use this in the future, like processing through emotion or things like that. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Cool.
This was my first one. It ended up being the most abstract.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm not really sure what the thought process was behind it, so I guess I'll just show them to you guys.
Cool.
I do like to use a lot of colors, and I was just kind of changing the colors depending on different scenes I saw in my head or different emotions I felt while watching. This was for the second one. This was the one I liked the least, but once I can turn the page. It's supposed to be like this, but you guys probably can't see it as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the third one, I went kind of generic with, flames and music and that sort of things.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about how it was.
I liked it. Definitely feel like it's a lot harder to like be creative when I'm happy than when I'm sad. Like since I am a creative writer, when I'm really, really upset about something, that's another thing I do is I just like throw myself into writing a piece of fiction and like get out my frustrations in that way. But I feel like it's probably a lot healthier to draw just like because drawing is not something I normally do. It's not really a hobby I have. Like I'm using my friend's Copic markers right now because she's the artist in the family. So yeah, I'm much more of a writer, but I feel like it's more tactile. And I feel like the more tactile things you do, the more you're getting that off your chest.
Yeah, I think it's cool how you said like you lean towards like creative writing and things like that to help you cope with emotion. I think in addictions, like we said, like a lot of people use addictions to like not deal with emotion. So this, and then we're gonna do another little thing at the end of just like different ways that like yeah, you can help cope with emotion, which in turn will help if, for example, someone had an addiction and they were in recovery from it and like an emotion came up. These are like little tools or like tricks you could use. But I think creative writing is another really cool one. Cool, thank you. Who else would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
I mean, be the only one.
It's a little hilarious. Okay. So the first song, this was my picture for it.
Like it.
I love it.
Um,
I did a guitar in mine, but it was
yeah, I'm like really interested into instrumentals. So like that first, like just hearing of that stuck in my head and stayed with me. And then slow jams are my thing, but they also resemblance like self-reflection for me. Like because it's like a very slow thing. You're just like more in tune with what's being said. You're more in tune with yourself. Yeah, that type of thing. So that goes into the second one. This is like it made me think of like because it seemed like a dark night type of like you're listening to music out, it's nighttime, these stars or whatever. So it made me think of when I was younger and we had this like there was a window right here and we snuck out the window of the bathroom and we would come and like chill on the roof right here. It was like a flat roof. And then there was a trampoline down here, so we used to jump off the trampolines and stuff. That's besides the point though. But yeah, so it made me think of that, but then it kind of turned a little happy. So I didn't get to really show my full idea, but this is like me like kind of exploring the world because that's kind of like the I envision when it turned a little more happy. And the last song just makes me think of Dance Mob because I love rom-coms. So I did a little I did a little dance mob right there. For me, these, I know it's not for everyone, but it kind of, a couple, like the first two is like actual like experiences I actually lived through. So that it kind of, the music kind of brought out like past, like, you know, thoughts, experiences going through my head, and that's kind of what came out on the paper. So that was cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Thank you. Marker's eye.
Okay. For the first song, this is my. Are you able
Can
to
you
see?
turn your
It's your
Sorry.
blur.
Okay.
Trying to be slick with the blur there.
Uh-oh.
It's okay if you can't.
It's like you're trying to censor your drawing.
oh
So much.
How do
Honestly,
I put it off?
what? I have no idea.
Oh man.
You actually might have to do it when you're not on an active Zoom call. It might be like in a setting.
Oh, okay.
So you can just tell us the experience for you if you'd like.
So the first one I have a sun and like two people in a tree, and they all sad because I got like some sad vibe from the first song.
Okay.
Um, the second song, I got like the sun and like the person, they kind of happy, and they got these muscles showing that they have to be strong through difficult times sometimes.
Okay.
And my last song, I got this one person with a sad face saying something negative, and I got this other person with a smiley face, and they run forward because like no matter what people say, like they might say some negative stuff, but you have to keep moving. And so
Awesome. How was that for you?
um I think it's like I think it's like the way of life, you know. Some people gonna be sad and depressed, and like you can't let that keep you down. You have to just keep moving forward in life.
Mm, awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Zai.
Oh, I was dreading this.
You don't have to show them if you don't want to. You can just tell us your experience.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna show y'all because y'all show y'all. Can y'all see me? Because my internet is acting up.
You're good.
Okay, so the first one, this is an ear. I can't draw, guys. So this is an ear, guys, and then this is what I think of about like a scratch in the ear. That's what it gave me, like
Mhm.
a weird vibe. The song gave off really sad. I'm not sure, so it gave me a weird itch in my ear.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. Um, the second one, I did like a big tree, and the reason I did the big tree because I wanted the song kind of to me it represents growth and
Yeah.
coming out of the light. And I have the sun because he mentioned the sun, and when I thought about it, I thought about the sun will always come out anyway. No matter what kind of day you have, the sun will come out anyway. And in the corner, it's like a mean cloud that was covering the sun, and it says, "Ugh, I'll be back." So that's that's what I thought of. And the last one is so hilarious. The last one, don't mind my handwriting. I was just scribbling. The last one is a flag of
Taylor.
the Taylor Swift flag. So it says to Jill Nation because I merged Taylor and Jill because I thought about her when the song came.
So
Because I know
funny.
how big she is.
I know she's right there. Okay. Love that. How was your process?
I suck at creative writing. I like to doodle when I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
like when I do doodle, I like make these faces. So I was trying to avoid making these. I make these like little faces all the time, every time that I'm thinking. So I try to avoid doing that because like that is what I do. But creative writing is a little bit difficult to me. And when I think about music, like when I'm listening to music, I think about I use words more than I draw pictures. Like when I'm thinking about a song, I like to talk more. I like to go in depth about it by like talking. So this was a little bit difficult because I felt like the flag was a little lazy.
I
But that's literally what came to mind.
I'll take it. Proud to be a Swiftie over here. I think it's really interesting the similarities between a lot of your drawings using like the sun and nature, and like everyone kind of went in that direction for some. I think it was cool. Like everyone had their little individual pieces, but like I think of like the human experience or just like the universal emotion, and like a lot of that came out in a lot of your drawings, which I thought was really, really cool. So yeah, just like a fun little like skill or way to combat like addictions, or this is more like when you've moved into recovery from addiction, how to maintain that recovery, I guess, or sobriety or whatever it is that's happening. So we only have like 15 minutes left, which is wild to me. So it goes quite fast when you're on the side of it, as you all I guess know. So I would like to move into like the ending of just like a little bit of reflection, and then I'm gonna leave you with the last 5 minutes of a little activity before we go. But I guess I'll summarize first of I think we hit all of your goals. It was really a combination of learning about different process addictions, learning about what causes addiction, how to help addiction. We went through, I guess, the definition of addiction. We went through some different common types of addictions, and then really hit into substance abuse, eating disorder and food addiction, and then process addictions. Did some fun videos and did this little activity. Do you guys have any, I guess, takeaways that you got out of this session and like what you're taking away from it?
Hmm.
I'm definitely gonna do the art and music activity more often. Like I'm still doing it right now.
I know, I'm like, I still want to draw some more.
Okay.
Hmm. The takeaway I got from this session is that people don't start off being addicted to drugs. Something led to them being addicted to drugs. So, like me trying to be a counselor, it'd be good for me to like to try to get to the deep root of their problem.
Okay.
Like you said earlier, that no one starts out evil, no one starts out bad. So when you see somebody that's dealing with addictions, or you see somebody that's like just in general, like dealing with something, going through something, acting a certain way, you always have to remember that they're human at the end of the day. They started out just as pure as we did. We made mistakes. We were able to fix it, but unfortunately others can't handle that. And that's okay. It happens. It's life. That's what people go through, unfortunately. So yeah, it's kind of like humbling
Mm,
a little bit.
yeah. Okay.
One of my takeaways is the poodle science. Everyone's different. You can't change someone to be who you are. Everyone is unique in their own way. And with process addictions and keeping that line between just regular everyday things and process addictions, just because people can sometimes be mislabeled easily. And so yeah, keeping that in mind.
Awesome. Feedback for me, what I did good, what I could improve on.
I think you did a great job. It was very entertaining and very knowledgeable.
It's obvious you know what you're doing since you know you do this for a living. The whole constructive criticism thing, like we've all said, summary is hard when it comes to psychoeducation. So
I like how you broke how addiction starts down in the beginning. I thought that was like so creative. I really wanted the compliment in the beginning, but I was trying to say it for the
Mhm.
end because that's a cool way to break stuff down. Easy way. So I thought that was really neat. Other than that, like you knew what you were doing. It's gonna be hard putting in what could you do better.
There's plenty there.
'Cause I don't.
Yeah, I think you did a great job of um like reconnecting your thoughts after everyone went through and gave like their thoughts on whatever topic that you were having us answer. So I think you did a great way of like putting all that back together.
Guys. So for the last few minutes, we went over a lot of like I feel like heavier stuff. Like this topic tends to be a little bit heavier. And I feel like can extract some like emotions in general, like personal emotions. So I want to end with a brain dump, which is an activity that can also be utilized similarly to how we just engaged like art and music. This one's going to engage words, which it sounds like some of you guys also prefer. So you're just going to you can do it on your phone in the notes app, or just I think it works better on a piece of paper, and you guys shall have that, but however you want. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and you are literally just going to brain dump. So it could be anything from like, I'm hungry, I need to pee, like I'm ready for this to be done, to like, I feel like I struggle with this, or I'm having this emotion. You're not going to share it with us or anyone. It's really just for you, but kind of just to get whatever's in your head out on paper. So like when we end the session, it's not like stuck up there, like rumbling around before you're trying to go to bed, you know? So I'm going to set a 5-minute timer and just take a few minutes to do that. And I am going to do it as well. Cool. We can wrap that thought up. I hope that that was helpful to like get your brains back on straight. And I think with that, I will quit our recording.